Good evening, and welcome to the Town Center
Hello.
Library Committee meeting
Mhm.
for this last day of November
I
2023.
know.
Our first agenda item is public comment. The only person I see here is Lisa. Lisa, do you have any thing you want to say to us?
Looks like she might not quite be on with audio.
All right. Hearing none. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay. Well, let's talk about Saturday. So we're scheduled for 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock for tours.
Yep. Yes.
Oh, there you are, Lisa. Are you there?
Lori, are you talking to us or somebody else?
No.
I keep hearing
The joys of Zoom.
anyway, we'll get it figured out.
So I kind of thought that what we might do.
Okay. Oh, well, it's cooking kind of.
Oh, that's Lisa. There we go. Okay. I thought what we might do is make an announcement at the book sale, like at 9:45, there'll be a tour of the town center building coming up in 15 minutes or something like that. You have no trouble getting a pretty good crowd there. And it's probably awful lot of them are probably from Richmond, I would think, contrary to some other, like the farmers market is not necessarily all Richmond. But I suspect the book sale is a high percentage of Richmond.
It's Richmond, Huntington, Bolton, I would say.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
And we haven't yet.
And the random people that come just because they know and they go to every book sale.
Yeah. We haven't quite figured out how to tax Bolton and Huntington for our town center improvements yet. We're working on that. Not kidding, just kidding.
Yeah. I made some signs to put around too that talked about the tours. So we could put those up on Friday night.
Great. We should probably put a notice in Front Porch Forum tomorrow anyway, that we're doing that. Just your flyer probably, Lori, would be okay. Who would you be willing to do that, or or do you want me to do it, or
I can do it. Yeah. I'll just take off everything except take the flyer and just leave the 2 tour dates and yeah.
I think that's just that, and that would be great. What I thought we would we would start outside. So who else is going to be able to be here? So Amy, you and Lori will be at the book sale. How about you can't make it?
No, I'm not doing anything on Saturday at the book sale.
Okay.
But I might.
What's wrong with your ankle?
I have Achilles tendonitis.
Oh.
And it's better. I went to PT today. But I could probably make it to one of the tours.
Well, don't stress yourself. I can do this. It's not
yeah. Let's just leave it. I might be there.
Okay.
I'll try to make the 2. We'll be traveling back from Montreal. I just don't know if we're gonna make it.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of control.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't make any of them. I got a full day of shuttling the kids around.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. I didn't really expect a lot of people. Lisa, did you have a question?
Lisa has her hand up.
I had to unmute. I don't find that a natural tendency. Jeff, I missed what you said, but do you need some help on Saturday?
Well, what we have planned to do is similar to our tour that we did for the select board. We're going to do a tour of the building for anybody who would like to come. So we're scheduled for on Saturday at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock to do those tours. I think the tours kind of really drives it home what the deficiencies are in the building.
I've heard that from people. They had no idea. I mean, most people don't go around the corners and through the alleyways and so forth inside the building. So
we'll see if
if I can help, I'd be glad to. But I'm not qualified to be a tour guide. But
no.
Sure, if you'd like to come, that'd be fine. That would be great. So we're doing 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock.
Okay.
I've committed to doing that for
Yeah.
both times.
Yeah,
Jeff,
And
I
I-
could
you know,
be there
as I
for
say,
the
I think
10
I'll-
o'clock.
Pardon me?
I could be there for the 10 o'clock, but I have to go over to the book sale at 11. I'm there from 11 to 1, but I could come in for the part of the 10 o'clock tour.
yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
And then I could try to do the 2 o'clock and at least we'd have a couple of committee members.
That would be great. You know, you guys
Yeah.
were both really helpful during the select board tour. And Lisa, you weren't here in person for the select board tour, were you? You were here Zooming.
I said, no, I wasn't, sorry, no, I've been sick for about 2 weeks and just, I thought I would, don't get old. That's
Yeah.
nice.
So Jeff, I also made a QR code that takes you to the page where the tour and the packet are on the town website.
Right?
So, and it's on the board, display board, so people could just use their phone and,
Yeah, I saw
Save
Lori made a really nice trifold
Yeah.
thing, you
Yeah,
know?
I
Yeah.
sent a photo of that.
Yeah, that's great.
yeah.
That's great. How many copies of the packet should we have on hand, do people think?
I don't know.
I mean,
I
there's
have
no harm in printing them. Are you able to do this tomorrow?
Yeah, how many you want?
Just make sure you print the right floor plan. I replaced all the old floor plans and the ones that I had with the new one that says tenant.
Yeah, you gave me that. I updated the website with that, so I
Okay.
can just print it right off the website.
You
Okay.
know, I don't think we'll get this many people, but it's not gonna, it won't hurt to have extra copies floating around, and I suspect we've got several months now. We're pretty much done with that packet, are we not? I don't see any changes. We probably, I guess it's later on.
Unless we drop the site work costs,
Yeah,
which
so
is on tonight's discussion.
we'll talk about that and we'll see if
Yeah.
if they need to make a change.
Yeah.
But I would think, I don't know,
30?
Huh?
30?
at least 30. I would think at
Yeah.
least 30.
We can always print more if we run out. It's
Mhm.
not
Well,
like,
but we can't if there's a whole bunch of people who show up, we can't print
oh,
them all.
yeah.
And it'd be better to have some left over than it would be not to have enough, maybe.
Uh-huh.
And there might be a whole bunch of people who will, I'll get
We can always print them at the library.
you have color copier?
Yep.
Okay. Lisa, did you have a suggestion?
Oh, yeah, I just wondered, Jeff, you're gonna save some for the, when the bond vote comes up? Would you want
Oh,
some?
yeah, we're way away from that. So we've
Yeah.
got 4 months for that. So, first, the select board has to approve the bond vote. And we're not there yet. So, once that's final and in the can, then we still have to do a whole other round of public outreach.
Yeah,
Didn't-
I would like to fancy it up a little bit when we get to the bond vote and maybe put a cover page on it and,
Okay. So we're talking about Saturday.
Yeah.
We're
yes.
Do another.
10 and
I'm
2.
sorry, communication out of the last one. I hope I didn't take
Yeah.
you away.
Yeah.
It worked okay.
It wasn't a big, it wasn't a big deal. How'd it go on your end with the select board?
Oh, I thought it went really well, actually. You thought it went well too,
Yeah.
eh? It was very helpful to, I think you pointed it out really well. When you're sitting in this room, you don't necessarily notice all of the deficiencies, but if you point them out, you go, oh, yeah, what's with that? That looks awful. I shook the windows, and, we spent at least an hour, right, Lori? It was at least an hour
There
walking
was
around.
an hour and 20 minutes, maybe. I think the video is an hour 20.
So we did very little of the presentation, but,
Right.
we were able to cover pretty much all of the content during the walkthrough. And I think it was particularly good to do that with the select board.
Yeah.
So we won't need to cover a lot of ground are we on the agenda for Monday? We're on the agenda for Monday.
Right.
So we can answer questions and what the select board what this select board I think is really good at is asking questions where they may know the answer, but they think other people might have the questions. And that's useful, really, you know, to provide an opportunity to answer the questions.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I thought it went great. I think we were in the basement when you came,
Yeah,
you know.
I would have, too bad I would have enjoyed being part of that, but it.
Well, we're gonna do it
worked out
again.
Fine, went home and took a nap or something.
I did that after.
yeah.
Did you want to come on Saturday at all, or
What's the time
we're
again?
doing 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock?
I can't do the 2, but I may well be able to do the 10.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that would be great coverage. Amy said she might be able to do the 10 o'clock as well. Lori said she might be able to do the 2 o'clock. Josh is not able to, and Jake is an outside chance he might be able to make 2 o'clock. So, you know, having, you know, the more the merrier, but I'll try to cover whatever it be.
Yeah.
Lisa, did you have another comment?
No, I was just gonna say, I can come to 2. I can come to either one, but if 2 is a little more sparse, I'll come to that one if you want.
I think either will be fine. Either will be fine, and you know, the more the merrier. I don't know, you know, I'll be interested to see whether people are interested in actually doing this.
Yeah,
I have been getting questions, you know, and I think
Yes.
that's good and appropriate.
we should definitely do a presentation at the fire department because Rich has been getting a lot of questions from the firemen because they know that I'm on the committee.
Cool,
So,
cool. Yeah, let's gonna need to meet twice in December after this. But maybe we can think about in December what our public outreach would be between
yeah,
and town meeting.
yep,
Fire be a good one, actually.
yep.
We know that the fire department votes.
We have lists.
Okay, is there anything else we need to do for Saturday?
We need to get you keys.
Keys would be good. That would be good.
Can you connect with Duncan or Linda tomorrow and they could probably get you keys? You need a front door key, upstairs, planning and zoning, and town clerk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are
you around tomorrow?
Basement, I think, is the same.
Same as the front door.
Yeah.
Come in at 10 o'clock.
Oh,
Are you on
Amy,
tomorrow?
are you?
Yeah,
I
can
think
go.
Amy's trying to say,
Bring Duncan's.
Amy, you're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Sorry.
Need it a little bit.
Maybe get rid of your video.
Yeah, that sometimes helps.
It might improve your bandwidth if you.
Can you hear any
Yeah.
better? I'm just trying a different spot in the room too.
No, not really.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There you
can hear
go.
A little bit. Yep.
Hold on.
And
I
what
can,
were you
if you
saying?
want, can I just bring Duncan's keys? I can bring Duncan's keys to Jeff on Saturday morning if that's easier.
I think he's got keys to everything. I can talk, assuming Duncan feels better tomorrow, I can talk with him and we can figure it out. It's just getting them back, then we might have spare keys to everything. So we can give them to Jeff and he can just bring them back at his leisure.
I'll just come to make sure that I have them in hand. I'll
Yeah.
come down tomorrow morning and
I'm sure we'll find them for you.
and just grab it. But thank you for that, Amy. Okay, so I feel fairly comfortable with that. I'm not planning on doing the, you know, PowerPoint presentation to this crew, just, you know, walking through and answering questions, handing out the packet.
yep,
That's
you
what I
might,
need for the presentation anyway.
you might want to make sure they look at the numbers and have any if they have any questions
Yeah.
on the budget. But
Yep.
you could just do that standing or sitting or whatever.
Okay. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is select board meeting on Monday.
Mhm.
We're on the agenda. I guess it's time to finalize what we're asking.
Mhm.
So I think the choices are, we have 9.8 million, 8 something billion. And that includes everything included in site work. It doesn't include solar.
Mhm.
It doesn't include higher efficiency windows.
Oh, but it does, so it includes double, not triple pane?
Yes,
Yes.
it includes double, not triple.
And it doesn't include the pavilion.
Right.
That was in the green space. That's what the
Yeah.
9.8 is. The only other thing that we've talked about is whether or not, and this was a suggestion by who, Judy Bush, I think.
Yeah,
Suggested that we might consider taking out the green space altogether. Which when I talked to the architects, they said about half of the site work budget is for stormwater management. And that's 1.2 million. So best case scenario, if we took out 600,000, that would eliminate the green space, really eliminate any major work to the parking lot.
yeah,
So my understanding from those conversations that we had, this came back to the, you know, the leg bone is connected to the hip bone kind of situation. And it seemed like because of the excavation that they needed to do and a lot of the earth moving for the flood mitigation, there's really no better time than when you are mobilized and you're already doing all of that stuff.
mhm,
The rest of the work. So the question that I would have is if we defer half of it, does it never get done, or is that funded in some other way? Because if we do it later, does it cost twice as much as it would have?
right,
My sense is that when you've already got everything sort of all dug up to do this, like reconfiguring that area for how the parking is work is not as expensive as it would be to come back and completely do that as a separate project.
mhm,
So, which makes it
mhm.
that whole situation where it becomes very difficult to just take one piece and kind of just pluck it out as a standalone measure that you could sort of add back in later or not.
Yeah. The
I
other
don't-
thing is, yeah, 600,000 out of a $9.8 million budget probably is $2 of tax. I mean, how much, I don't know how much it would have it, and would it significantly lower the tax burden to take 600,000 out?
Maybe
It's about
$5.
I think it'd be,
If it's about $950 per $100,000, no, $950 per $100,000 per million borrowed, right? If you
Right.
think
Yeah.
about 100,000, what's that? $5 per 100,000
yeah,
in property value. So you're talking $15, $20 to $300,000, $400,000 property. It's
Or
not,
the most visible part of the entire project.
Yeah,
So there's, obviously you can always play that and look at it that way, which,
Yeah.
you know. I think it comes down to what is the value of changing our site? Because I think that if we pull it now, it won't get done. Right. And so if you
Right.
value it, then you pay for it. You know, you just say we're all in and pay for it now. And I think Judy Bush's
Okay.
point was 1.2 million for site work. Wow, what are we really getting for that money?
Right.
And then Jeff explained that half of it was for stormwater. And you're probably absolutely right that 600 savings is, you know, it's probably 10-15% more if we did it later. So
right,
again, I think a lot of it is you know, do we improve the curb appeal, A, and B, or A, do we improve the way the landscaping affects the site? And
but a lot of those changes are also safety issues for me, like
Yeah.
improving the safety of people moving around the two campuses and the ease of moving around the two campuses. Yeah, I think there's also more, I think there's more potential for grant money for some of that work to get than probably any other piece of the work.
Well,
Just-
especially the phase two on that of making some sort of gathering pavilion or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the accessibility of the library side and moving the handicap, that is all potentially could be some accessibility grant money.
I
The
think
library department is going to open up the grants in December, they told me, for applications.
I just really can't help but think at the end of the day is the difference between 9.2 and 9.8 gonna be the pass fail for this as a bond vote. And I
Yeah.
think having, I think, a lot of value and
Mhm.
being the most publicly visible portion of the entire project,
Mm.
and layering on what Lori just said, the fact that that's one of our best opportunities for finding grant money to actually help pay for that portion.
Mhm.
I'm leaning pretty heavily toward leaving that in scope.
Yep.
I
So
would
am
just say,
I.
I would say that $600,000 is real money.
It is.
Mhm.
Yep. For me, the site work and the landscaping portion of it is one of the more appealing aspects for a number of reasons. One of which for me is that I like to see this property as a campus rather than as two individual sites. And so anything that helps unify this lot, if you will, I think is a good thing. And I think over time that those changes will be valuable. I think they'll pay for them, you know. I think it's good value. It's a lot of money, but I think it's good value. So I would support keeping it, is where I'm leaning.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, if I would put in my 2 cents, I agree, you know, that while $600,000 is real money, I agree that it's unlikely to be done at another time. And if it were to be done at another time, it would cost just that much more. You know, it would be disappointing if this bond vote were to go down. We could have another shot at doing another vote in November. And by that time, in November, a $9.2 million project would be a $9.8 million project without the site work. It would be a drag. All would be really a drag.
Yeah.
So, Lisa, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, Jeff, I mean, if I were one of the inhabitants of the building, I'd be pretty tired of all the racket and so forth just to get the building done, and then to wait a month, and now we got bulldozers and graders driving around outside and, backhoes and so forth. I think we want to get the disruption finished, building's done, and so is the site work, at that point. And then you have a finished product. I think it's going to be a lot more satisfying to anybody that's spending money on it, including all the taxpayers, to see really what they're getting at that point. So do it.
Is there anything else that we can think of? And we know this building now better than anybody else. Is there anything else we can think of that isn't necessary?
Unfortunately, no.
I'm having a hard time coming up with anything that's not necessary. And I think that's something that we're going to have to get good at, is explaining that. The deficiencies is a really good step in that direction. But doing nothing, it's not really.
I mean, there are things, but I don't think anybody's ready to let those go. I mean, we don't have to sprinkler the building, right? But are we going to not do that when we have everything open and ready to go? I mean, making a choice that we don't want to take it to the, a code level on safety seems like a poor decision. Do we have to reconfigure interior partitions? No. But we're giving up a huge amount of efficient use of space in order to do that, to optimize.
Mhm.
Ah,
And,
is-
and not doing the interior petitions is not the big cost of this project anyway.
None of those are the big
No.
costs.
So.
But if you, so just being the devil's advocate,
Yeah.
if you take out a 600 chunk and you take out the sprinkler system.
Yep.
And you put together a couple of grants and this, instead of a 9.8 project, this is a 7.8 project. That,
The sprinkler's about 175.
yeah,
You
could, then.
Yeah.
Then you could, then you are looking at a considerable difference in your
It is.
tax burden.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do, I do think this, if we were down in the sevens, it would, I think it would be easier, so.
It's hard, right? Because I think once you know the number and you have it in your mind, everything is in relationship to that number.
Yeah.
If we were working with a $15 million number and we had gotten it down to 9.8, we would be sitting here clapping ourselves on the back.
Well, we
saying,
did. to a certain
Everybody's
extent.
gonna,
We did to a certain extent, when we
Right.
looked at, adding additions onto the building or a separate building on the site. We were talking, at least $2 or $3 million more.
Yeah.
And I think that's a point that we need to hammer home. It's that this is not. This is not the optimum choice. This is the, or the most expensive choice. This is the optimum choice of living within our boundaries of the building, taking advantage of
Mm.
the investment the town already has in this site, over the last 100 years, but even, over the last, 20 years. It's hard to imagine doing it cheaper. Lisa?
Yeah, does our property insurer give us any kind of a discount for sprinkling the building? I mean, it reduces their risk a lot.
Maybe, I think we spend $6,000 a year on insuring the building.
Oh, okay. Well, drive it down to 4. Yeah.
And is that everything? That's all the buildings?
No, that's this building.
Town center, yeah.
Yeah.
That's just something like that. It's something in that order.
Yeah.
We could.
But it'll be,
Well, that's right. Just a thought.
By the way, Amy, we're seeing your chat comments. Thank you.
Yes.
yeah,
So I think what we need to explain to folks is that we have thought this through. This is not a gold-plated project. This is something that we have, we've spent 5 years now, studying the building, learning what's wrong with it, and trying to come up with a plan that addresses all of the things that we found that were wrong with it, and doing a project that the town would be proud of.
mhm,
So what I would entertain, I think what we ought to do is we ought to make a vote. We ought to do a vote on this. How much we are asking the select board to put on a bond. Or a
Mhm.
bond vote at town meeting. So I would entertain a motion. Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we ask the select board for the proposed 9.8, and I don't know the exact
Whatever
number.
changes.
and who did the motion? I couldn't hear.
that was Dave.
Dave?
Yeah, he's in the process of making the motion still.
Oh, okay.
$9,841,603.
So I
Okay.
make a motion, the town center committee ask the select board to forward that figure to the voters in the form of a bond,
Mhm.
whatever the proper term is.
Is there a second to that
I'll second
motion?
that.
Okay, Jake seconds.
Thank you.
All right, Amy seconded as well. I just didn't hear you in your chat, Amy. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, state your name and your vote.
Jake, I.
Josh, I.
Dave, aye.
Lori, I.
Amy, I.
And Jeff, I. So that's unanimous. Hooray.
Good.
We're off to the races. Okay, then that took care of 2 of our agenda
Mhm.
items. The third agenda item is a discussion on the Radiate came to the select board.
Mhm.
I thought it was a good discussion. So they were prepared. They had specific asks. They wanted to be asked to be considered. They recognized that none of the tenants are final until we have a final project and we work towards construction documents. I think they got that. And what they asked, and the change that we've now made in our materials is instead of designating what tenants go where, is to make the name tenant space, make it a generic name.
Mhm.
And it's not really our decision on who gets to use the space. It's the select board's decision, at least in my mind. And that decision doesn't need to be made right now by the select board. You know, it's irrelevant if a bond vote doesn't pass. If a bond vote does pass, I think we've done our due diligence of providing the select board with criteria to consider applicants. One select board member mentioned to me, maybe we open it up. One program that we do in town that we pay for in town is Howard Mental Health has a community outreach program. Maybe they'd like an office in town, and maybe that would be helpful. Who knows? Maybe there are other nonprofits in town that would be appropriate. We did have quite a few. We had a number of different groups who were interested at the time when we. And it probably would be wise. That was several years ago. It'd probably be wise for the select board to revisit that or assign us to revisit it or whatever. But it's all irrelevant until a bond vote passes. Amy, did you have a comment?
Yeah, actually, I just have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sort of.
Okay. If the bond vote doesn't pass, can Radiate still continue to stay in the basement? Or do we have to do something about moving them out of the basement because of the flood issues?
I don't think we're required to evict them if we're not doing a substantial renovation on the building. So I would say probably they could remain.
Okay.
Unless the select board wants to open it up and reconsider that, it would seem unlikely, that their space, if it works for them now, you would think it would work for them, 6 months from now.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not optimum, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just concerned that becomes a reason for people to vote no. That they
really-
don't want to
Yeah.
kick Radiate out.
I'm not sure what we can do about that,
Yeah.
But Jeff, somebody somewhere along the line, and it might have been Christy Witter, said, or maybe it was Fran Thomas, I can't remember, that how can you ask people to vote for something if they don't know what's going to go in the building? I also think, frankly, that we have some constituencies just on a political basis, and maybe as a town committee, we shouldn't be making political judgments, but there are, let's just put it this way, the proposed tenants that we had, there's constituencies to support this because it would provide them with the necessary space to do their important work.
This is a sticky one, and every time this comes up, we hear, I think, reasonable arguments on both sides. My feeling, I think, where I've landed on this is that it is imperative that we do not commit to tenants before the bond vote. And the reason why I think that that's true is because at the end of the day, people may be thinking that they're voting for a tenant, but that's really not what this is. It's a physical modification to a building, right? And the decision around the tenants, I think, needs to be decoupled from the physical modification. I think that that is what's gonna last for 100 years. Tenants are gonna come and go. And it's short-sighted to be thinking like, I'm not gonna vote for this because Radiate's gonna get kicked out. I think we need to be, and if we leave it open and we don't have it exactly as we've been talking about, putting tenant on there and not having names like Historical Society, it leaves it open so that all those constituencies have an opportunity.
Great points, and I don't disagree one bit. But in this public education process, people are gonna ask, are you, for the estimate on this cost, do we have a police station in the building?
Town service, so we do. It's not a
Mhm.
tenant. I think we'll have tenant space.
Yeah.
And we make it clear that it's not, Radiate isn't getting kicked out. I think we need to reframe that. We will not be able to utilize the basement where Radiate currently is, but we will have other tenant space in the building. And we will be evaluating that as we move towards construction drawings to ensure that we have things that are
And so-
meeting needs.
Just kind of exploring this a little bit, next step. So was the cost estimating designed around any special?
I don't
Any
believe so.
special, needs
Vaults, like special rooms.
such as the,
Amenities to the space.
Yeah.
the acronym is escaping me for the,
Like a fit up,
but
basically.
yeah, but I mean, for the TV.
Or
Or
TV.
Oh,
whatever.
MMC TV?
MMS
So we-
CTV what was our cost estimating, somebody could ask that was. And that's,
I hope
chump cha-
not.
it's chump change in the big
Yeah.
scheme of things, but
No.
I mean, I
I
think
don't-
really, we looked at town services first and
Right.
foremost, and then use that space, and then anything after that, and then conference space.
Yeah.
And anything after that became tenant space.
Yeah.
Sort of the way the building's currently used, right?
Right.
So I think that would be the answer. Like, that was our priority. And also in 5 or 10 years, we could have 2 or 3 more town staff, which might mean we make a decision about a tenant.
Right.
Sorry, we need your space.
Right.
And
Like, it's not long-term, like commercial rental space.
Our leases with, so one of the things that we moved along, this committee moved along, was that all of the tenants have leases now. Even,
Short-term.
Right.
the short-term leases, and in the lease, it's acknowledged that if the town needed the space, they would give notice. MMC TV actually has money for fit out. They have their own funding source and they have money for fit out. They did not want to do it while we were in this process. Because they didn't want to go change something and then change it again. So that's a possibility. And they have also stated that they don't necessarily need all of the space that they have.
Right.
They actually have quite a large, it's almost an entire classroom, what was originally a classroom over there, I think. And there may be ways of reconfiguring this space. So, and when I talked to the architects about this, if we, let's say, for example, Christy Witters suggested stealing some space from the police department because we might not need that. And the likely things that you would take from that would be like the locker room.
Right.
And that's actually that's a more expensive space.
Right.
So the architect said it's not likely to change the cost.
No.
any, if we were to do that. So I think I agree with you, Jake, that this is a separate decision.
Has to be.
And
We put ourselves in the middle of that. We can't win. We
Right.
start assigning particular businesses, companies to individual spaces in the, I think that's a losing proposition.
I wanted to make sure we could answer those questions. And I
yeah,
think we did.
it's useful to have this conversation, actually, I mean,
I actually am hopeful that with some further design work that we could accommodate everybody that we've had in mind thus far, and Judy's space needs were much smaller than we first anticipated. So it may well be that we can
I think so as well.
take care of people.
And we had much of this discussion at the select board level. And they landed more or less where, Jake, this was a specific request from Radiate. And Radiate, their request was can we change the names on the tenant space to just generic? And then we'll, we live
Mhm.
for another fight another day. So the select board agreed to that. That's why I asked the architect to change the names on the materials before our meeting, because the select board decided that they wanted to do that.
Mhm.
And, I'm hopeful, I'm hopeful as you are, Dave, that I actually think there is a way, to fit all of the existing spaces, existing users that we have now. This is such an inefficient space right now.
Mm.
So, okay, so I think we've
Okay.
landed. So
Yay.
we've landed on 9.841.
Yes, 9.841,603.
And we've decided on the site work.
Yeah.
The question that came up on the sprinkler system was it a dry or was it a wet system? And I couldn't remember, and so I went back to the architects and asked, and the answer is yes. The concern is if there needs to be a sprinkler system that penetrates the attic space, it needs to be dry. So it doesn't freeze.
Yeah,
So the answer right now is spec as both.
Yeah, and the vault is a different type of system as
And the
well.
vault, yeah,
They don't
The
use
vault.
what-
no, the vault, I think, was it argon? Somebody said argon, or there was a
well,
gas?
somebody said halon, but halon is a banned chemical now, according to my fireman husband. But there is some chemical that they use in vaults. It goes off and it doesn't destroy documents, and it's dry. It's a gas that forces all the oxygen out of the room and puts the fire out, basically.
It sounds terrifying to me, but
Yeah. As long as the vault's sealed tight, it works.
so I didn't ask that question. I'll get an answer I'll get a definitive answer of that. If
But
it's not-
I'm assuming, Josh, we don't have that in there now, right?
No,
Not that I know of.
no,
I mean, I think the idea is it's a fireproof vault, so.
Yeah.
it's not have fire in it, hopefully.
Yeah. Maybe
So
you don't need it. I don't know.
I mean, how would a fire start? Maybe there's electricity in there, so
There is.
it could.
Mm,
Fire started in the vault, right? I was thinking what sealed off from the rest of the building, but you're right.
Yeah.
That could happen in the vault.
so maybe we can ask the fire department what they would recommend.
Yeah,
I'll ask Rich if he didn't seem to know. He knew there was some gas, but he didn't know.
why does this all matter? Again?
Just answering a question. There was just
Somebody just,
Yeah,
Somebody
select-
brought it up.
I can't remember actually who.
I'm wondering why they asked
I think
that.
it was Fran Huntoon, maybe. It was somebody on the tour that brought it up.
Maybe just curiosity.
Just in an effort to try to answer every possible question.
Okay.
Which
Which one will get your vote, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What do you want the answer to be?
What do you want it to be?
Okay.
Okay. So at the select board meeting, we're basically just presenting, do we need to write the request out for them, Josh? Like on paper, the actual number and all that?
I'll give them a draft motion with the actual number for the bond
Okay.
vote. I figured
Okay.
I'd include the packet that we have on the website in
Okay.
in the packet. So
Okay.
they've got that information. I could include the PowerPoint, but I don't know if we want to go into that much
Uh,
detail. Maybe
I-
just the FAQ and the site plan like we've got.
I think that would be sufficient.
Okay.
And
I
I think
mean,
what I can do
yeah.
is reiterate what our process has been to get to this point, because it's
Mhm.
another opportunity,
Mhm.
public, a public presentation.
I mean, Jay and David were on the tour.
Yeah.
And if Lisa does it on Saturday, that would mean everybody has done a tour.
Mhm.
So we don't
So
have
we'll-
to go back and rehash all the deficiencies and all that.
So will there be an actual vote on Monday?
Potentially, yeah, I think there's we'll move for that, right?
It'd be a vote to, yeah, prepare the bond paperwork, and
Yeah.
then we'd come back with all the bond paperwork, and they'd have to do, I think it's 2 different votes to approve the bond paperwork, and then it gets onto the ballot for March.
Okay,
So this is just like,
Right.
they will take 2 weeks and get it all prepared and come back.
okay.
Uh-huh. So they
Once
could vote yes, but they have an opportunity to vote no later. Is
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
true?
I was gonna say,
they-
then,
I mean, I think once you get the yes vote that
Yeah,
they want to
yeah.
with bond paperwork, they're gonna approve the bond paperwork.
Yeah.
Cause
Okay.
that's,
There's some costs in doing that. There's some legal
Yeah.
costs.
Yeah.
And legal
Yeah.
review, sure the language is
Okay.
correct.
yeah, they
Okay.
write it all up. So, takes a little bit of time.
Okay. So,
Good.
only other thing we have on our agenda is approving the minutes. We have several. The
Yeah.
November 2nd, November 16th, and November 18th minutes. The 18th was our site
There was-
visit.
Pretty much a list of who was on the tour and not much else. It was
Um,
an official meeting, so it seemed like it had to have minutes.
I think there was one error maybe in the 16th.
Yeah,
That said that tonight was the select board meeting.
Oh,
okay. I don't have that in front of me.
That really quick, I can tell you quickly. Other than that,
Yeah.
I thought they were great,
Mm-hmm,
really helpful
mm-hmm.
as always.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'll reiterate that, Lori, your minutes are really good.
They really
They're
are.
very helpful. I ask them frequently.
I've been doing minutes a long time for a lot of different organizations.
It's surprising to me how many organizations, even, like I'm working with some other towns, the select boards oftentimes don't have minutes posted for weeks. It's like appalling to me.
Well, there's an open meeting law says you have to have them.
I
You have to
know.
have draft minutes within a certain amount of time.
Yeah, it's within days.
Yeah,
November 16th minutes, toward the end of, I guess, the middle paragraph. It states that Radiate is on the November 30th select board meeting
oh,
agenda.
it should be the 20th.
So it's just a typo.
Okay,
I
Alright.
mean. we need to
that's
even-
okay. We can move to approve the
Approve as
minutes with the change, with the correction, and I'll just fix that and send it to Josh.
To streamline this meeting, unless there are other substantive changes, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes for all 3 meetings
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for all 3.
as
meetings.
amended.
As amended.
Yeah,
Okay, is there any further discussion? If not, state your name and your vote.
Dave, yes.
Jake, aye.
Josh, I.
Amy, I.
Lori, I.
Jeff, aye. Okay,
Yay.
is there any other business for us to transact tonight?
Mm-mm.
Not that I can think of. How about items for next agenda? Here, I've got one thing. When should we meet? So I can't tell you how much I appreciate the attendance at our meetings, and there have been a lot of them over the last few months.
Mm.
And it's really, really been helpful. We would not be where we are now if it hadn't been for that. However, I see our workload has not quite as
Mm.
large moving forward until until after the holidays, really, until the time between January and March. Figure out a more robust public engagement plan.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if we could meet on the 14th because we will know what the select board voted. And then maybe not meet again in December,
I like that.
because then we'd either be, we'll be crying and saying, what do we do? Or we'll be going, now we have to do the outreach to. Yeah,
So it could be an hour, it doesn't have to be,
Yeah. yeah,
long meeting. I think 7 o'clock is working best for us. So,
Mhm.
I feel comfortable. It's December 14th,
That
Thursday.
would be our regular meeting, right?
And then
Yeah.
maybe then
And leave-
maybe we pause over the holidays.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Okay.
Okay with me?
Mhm.
Okay,
Sounds good.
I think that's everything, and we're 10 minutes early.
Look at that.
Okay,
Yay.
so, I move that we
Okay.
adjourn. All those in favor, aye.
All right.
Hi,
Aye.
Thank you again.
yes,
All right.
good.
Everybody.
All right.
Bye all.
Thanks, everyone.
See you this
You're
weekend
busy with,
sometime.
Some
See you this, yep,
hockey.
see you this weekend.